Caucus has been around quite a while and has enjoyed working with administration in the past on issues that we find agreement on, and we find agreement with the current administration on several different issues, and I look forward to working with them on several portions of the agenda. So what I think we should do is I'd like to introduce my co-chair to make a few remarks, and then introduce the members of the caucus to briefly mention their bills that are on the agenda, and then we'll answer questions.
Thank you very much. Mark Obenchain, I represent the 26th District. I'm a member of the Senate, and I want to thank everybody for coming today and thank my colleagues for being here. The Conservative Caucus has been around for probably 2 decades, and we appreciate the opportunity to work with our colleagues. We have strong membership from the Senate and from the House, and we have a group of organizations that work with us year in and year out. Not just Family Foundation, which generously provides staff support, but the Independent Baptists. We've had Americans for Prosperity that's been a strong partner. Catholic Conference and many other groups have been important partners in this process. Every year we go through and identify bills and legislations that strengthen families, protect our communities, protect our economic resources, and are mindful of our obligations to taxpayers and stand strong for individual liberties and limited government. And this year is no different. We have with us today a number of our colleagues from House and Senate whose bills are on our agenda, and simply want to give you an opportunity to hear a little bit about some of these bills that some of our colleagues have introduced, and give you an opportunity to ask some questions at the end. At this point, you want to turn it over to members.
That sounds good. That sounds good.
Jimmy, thank you. Take turns.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. I appreciate yours and Ben's leadership on this. I'm Delegate Jimmy Massey. I represent the 72nd District, which is Richmond and Henrico County. The bill that I'm really focused on this year is House Bill 2314, which is our Educational Opportunity Tax Credit Bill. This bill would allow corporations to make donations to scholarship organizations, receive a 70% tax credit from the state. Those funds, 90% of those funds would have to go to funding scholarships for free and reduced lunch kids. That's families of 4, typically with incomes of $41,000 or less. And this bill is at no cost to the state. Actually, the state's going to actually make a little money because there's only a 70% tax credit, and the state's going to save 90 cents on the dollar over on the other side when the kids come out of a public school and go into a non-public school. I'd like to point to Florida here real quick. This is not a new concept. Florida passed this bill in 2001 with 1 Democrat voting for it. Florida now has 32,000 kids on these scholarships. 75% of those kids are minority kids, 40% of them are African American. So it works. Florida improved the bill dramatically, expanded it in 2010 on who can give and who can receive. And you had, you went from having 1 Democrat vote for the bill originally in 2001 to 81% support in the House and 71% support in the Senate in 2010. So it works, it helps the kids, and we're very, very much looking forward to passage of the bill this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Jeff, go ahead, John.
Hi, I'm Senator Jeff Waters. I'm from the 8th Senatorial District, the eastern part of Virginia Beach. Good morning, and thank you for being here today. The bill that I'm working on is Senate Bill 1288. It's an E-Verify bill for contractors and subcontractors doing business with the Commonwealth of Virginia. It's done out of the utmost respect for all Americans. I think it's a bill that will, particularly at a time when our state is looking to invest significant dollars, in fact perhaps billions of dollars, in transportation, new construction projects to ensure that those who take those bids and those contracts and those workers in those organizations are United States citizens. So thank you very much.
Senator. Senator Cole.
Thank you. I'm Mark Cole. I represent the 88th District, which includes parts of Stafford, Spotsylvania, and Fauquier counties. And I'm speaking about House Bill 1438, the Interstate Commerce Act. And what it would do is simply assert Virginia's sovereignty for goods produced in Virginia for sale and use in Virginia. I think this gets back closer to the original meaning of the Constitution when it was set up. was that, states are perfectly capable of handling and regulating commerce within their boundaries, and the federal government only needs to worry about interstate commerce and, of course, exports and imports. Thank you.
Yes, I'm Ralph Smith. I represent the Roanoke and New River Valleys in the Virginia Senate. The bill I'd like to talk about today is the 72-hour budget bill. That is a bill I put in previously, and what it does is ask that after the budget comes together here in the General Assembly, that it will be posted online for 72 hours before we vote on it. Unlike the past, as the conferees come together with the budget plan, we go in a room, it's presented to the House, it's presented to the Senate. We immediately get up, walk to the chambers, and vote up or down on that. This proposition, you would put it online, all the Commonwealth could examine it. 72 hours later, we would vote on it. Now, it didn't get a lot of steam in the past, but the Republican Congress borrowed this bill. I had a bit of success last November, and if you were watching the installation of the new majority leader, the Speaker, John Boehner, in his opening statement, said, we will look at every bill, not just a spending bill, we will look at every bill for 72 hours before we vote on it. And it's gotten a lot of energy, a lot of new energy around the Capitol and around the Commonwealth. So I hope we'll be successful this year. Thank you.
I'm Dickie Bell. I represent the 20th House District, the City of Stanton, parts of Augusta and Rockingham County, and all of Highland County. I'm delighted that two of my pieces of legislation have made it to the conservative agenda. House Bill 1428 is a bill to license and regulate abortion clinics. This is a family values bill that we feel very strongly about as we provide for the health and safety of women who choose to use those clinics. I'm also proud of House Joint Resolution 500, which was adopted in the House yesterday. This is a constitutional amendment for the right to work, to make the right to work law in Virginia a permanent part of the Constitution. I think we all know that the Constitution is not a toy, that we shouldn't tamper with it unless we have every reason to do so. But we believe, based on the success of right to work in Virginia, that this is a good reason to do it. Thank you very much.
Our newest senator. Good morning, everyone. My name is Bill Stanley. I represent the 19th Senate District, which takes up all of Franklin County, Pennsylvania County, the city of Danville, and southern Campbell County. I'm proud that included in our conservative agenda is my Senate Bill 1378, which extends constitutional guaranteed protections to the rights to the unborn. This law that I propose comports with the Missouri law that has been ruled constitutional by our Supreme Court. It extends those constitutional rights to the unborn. It does not prohibit abortions, but it allows for rights of the unborn to extend where there is a wrongful death action if a mother's child dies for some reason that is caused by the negligence of others. So I'm excited that my bill's been included in the agenda, and I'm proud to stand with these of my esteemed colleagues today as we press forth in making sure that families matter here in Virginia, and so do the unborn. Thank you. Thank you, Senator.
Good morning, I'm Jim Lemunion. I represent the 67th District in Western Fairfax and Eastern Loudoun counties. Two bills to highlight. First, House Bill 1566, which is a bill very similar to one that passed the House last year on a vote of 86-13, but unfortunately was stopped at Senate rules. House Bill 1566 would require that voting records of members of the General Assembly be indexed by member name on the General Assembly's website in addition to bill number. And our purpose here is just to make it a lot easier for voters, people in the news media, interest groups to find our voting records. In my view, that's fundamental to the transparency and accountability of government. The other bill to mention is H.J. 542, otherwise known as the Repeal Amendment. This legislation has received some attention. We'll be talking more about it, I believe, in the Privileges and Elections Committee in the next few days. But to give you just a brief preview, we've seen a significant expansion of the federal government in the last 40 or 50 years. Whether people are for that or against that, I think we all acknowledge that that's true. Much of that expansion has been specific to federal mandates in transportation, education, social services, and other areas where the states really have the action and the implementation. One problem with this, there's still only 535 members of the U.S. House and Senate. It is impossible for them today to conduct the oversight that they must conduct to make sure these programs work. 50 years ago, they could do it in the course of a year or a congressional cycle. That does not happen any longer. And so that when we have dysfunction, and often it's the unintended consequences of well-intended legislation, there's frankly nothing that we can do about it. I'll give you an example. School divisions in this state have to file 34 reports every year with Richmond to be sent to Washington because of federal law. No one in Congress ever said, hey, let's go waste their time with 34 reports every year. It's the accumulation of law after law over the course of years that creates that unintended consequence. We can't fix that unless we get the attention of Congress and try to get it fixed. And frankly, they don't have the attention span to deal with these things. Transportation, they simply don't. Transportation, we have two, this gets down to maybe a local issue in Northern Virginia, 2 ramps that handle HOV traffic during the rush hour, left-hand exits. You can't use them during the day, you can't use them on weekends. We work with VDOT, we work with the Federal Highway Administration's representative in Richmond. We couldn't get those open until Congressman Frank Wolf got the director of the Federal Highway Administration, the #1 man in America on roads, to take a trip out there, look at those ramps, and personally approve the project. Why? Because the unintended consequence of laws, regulations, and red tape that prevented the common sense thing from happening. We had to go, we lived in Kansas, what would we do? So that's the kind of thing that the repeal amendment is after. It basically says when 2/3 of the states get together and want to repeal a law or federal regulation, it can be repealed. As a practical matter, I think if 5, 10, or 20 got together on the same thing, we would get the attention of Congress and they would fix it on their own terms. That's the purpose of the repeal amendment. Look forward to seeing many of you at the committee when we take it up on Friday. Thank you.
Delegate, Delegate Byron,
Thank you.
wrap it up.
I will be brief. My bill will be debated on the 4th Thursday, so you can all come and listen to the details then. House Bill 1419 is a repeal of the HPV vaccine. This is a bill that I was here when the bill originally passed 5 or 6 years ago, and I voted against it then. I continue to not support government mandating vaccines to our children. I think that when you have a virus that is not communicable in a school setting, that it's not government's business, and it should be a decision that is made between the doctor, the parents, and the children. And that government should not take a role of mandating that we inject medicines that have not been thoroughly tested into our children's bodies. This is a measure that is only mandated in 2 states, Virginia and Washington. If everyone is so convinced that this is such a great vaccine, we all want to see cures to cancer. There isn't anybody that can debate that issue. We all want to see that. But if this is such a convincing drug that can be used to treat that, then I would expect to see it on the airwaves. There's no problem with drug companies putting other drugs out on the market, on the air, and they would be marketing it more. You would be hearing more about it. The only thing I'm hearing on the news is the adverse reactions that are being reported to this vaccine. Caution needs to be taken. We need to repeal this, and that's what my bill is all about. Thank you.
I want to mention that the caucus is diverse, and we have several members who couldn't make it today, whose bills are on the agenda, and we also have members here today, including Delegate Anderson, who are on the caucus, but don't have any bills in particular on the agenda, or just are here to support it. With that, I'll be happy to take questions. Yes?
I'm Olympia with the Times Dispatch. I'm not I've just been kind of glancing through the list, and I'm not familiar with the whole agenda, but can you talk about any attempts at cutting spending, kind of the fiscal conservatism piece to the agenda?
Yes, as you recall, we had Americans for Prosperity here last year with a briefing book that they put together as a result of an independent review that they invested in to review the different areas of government, how we could save some money. They proposed it separately from the caucus, and the caucus didn't adopt it as a point in their agenda, but we do definitely, as a large part of our agenda, consider saving taxpayer dollars, making sure that taxpayer dollars are used wisely, and we all have initiatives to save dollars within state government. I have a budget amendment in on the state lottery that hope will be adopted to order an independent audit there, because there's some wasteful spending that we found. I think we all have examples that we can share.
One of the bills, Delegate Massey and I are both patroning the Educational Improvement Scholarship legislation, which is at its core one that has the potential to increase the efficiency and cost effectiveness of their dollars committed to education. We also have legislation, and frankly it's not on the agenda, but I suspect that vast majority of the Conservative Caucus would support taking a look at our SWAM program in the Commonwealth of Virginia, its effectiveness and cost effectiveness. And Ben mentioned, we do have a number of budget amendments. Mine, for example, would accelerate the defunding of NPR. Small drop in the bucket, but one nonetheless. And so.
I just want to add to that too, with the reform packages that are out, many of those bring budget savings as well. And as the governor has mentioned many times, his budget brings us back, I believe, to the 2006 year level of spending. So that, along with other reforms that are taking place and legislators that have proposed things, I'm sure that we'll continue to see cost savings in the budget.
I wanted to ask a question about Senator Smith's bill, the 72-hour budget bill. Certainly understand the intent of that and to give citizens access to it online to review it. But you folks, as you all well know, sometimes have a problem getting out of here on time. If you do the 72-hour review, there's potential that it costs the same about $30,000 each day that you guys stay overtime.
I've heard the,
Maybe our budget writers ought to get the budget to us 3 days earlier.
well, I have not been a conferee on the budget in the past, but those who have been have shared with me that the first few days is posturing, and then they really make the agreement on the last day. Now, if you continued the way we are doing business now, that would translate into adding 1 day. But I don't see any reason that it cannot be started even a week back and with finishing touches. So it's not necessary to add 3 more days of work to all these good folks here. I think it can be done in the same length of time. But should it, it's a great value to the Commonwealth.
You offered to be a conferee. You offered to be a conferee.
I have offered that. Haven't requested my services there yet. But anyway, that's, I think we're prepared.
It's going to be a while. I don't think anybody disagrees that if we're going to be a first-class economy in the state of Virginia, we've got to have a first-class transportation system, and we need to make some investments in transportation. We just want to do that prudently. I would make one point. The state of Virginia, I've made up, and Senator McWaters, one of the great things about business, if you can come into a downturn in the economy with your balance sheet in great shape, that's the time you make money. And you deploy your balance sheet when your competition is weak. Because of the governors we've had and Governor McDonald's leadership and the leadership of many of these people in this room, the state of Virginia has a very conservatively managed financial situation, a conservative income statement and a conservative balance sheet. We find ourselves coming into this downturn with a balance sheet that's in much stronger shape than any other state. So if we can, at this point, take advantage of that and buy some roads at 30 and 40% off, that's what I think we probably want to do. Now, we want to do that prudently, and so that's what we're looking at, making sure we're going to be doing that prudently.
And I just want to add that, while I have not seen the briefs or anything, I'm certainly open to the proposal. If I think it's going to save the Commonwealth money in the long run to accelerate some of these bonds, I'll support it. If I don't, then I won't.
So, C. Ross, thank you. You have started the conversation. We appreciate everyone's comment.